Let's go to the first one up on the big board, and it comes from, I don't know, Kegels and Bagels. Is that right? Okay. Anyways, you stop at a gas station in the middle of a 3-hour road trip. Timeout. Stop right there. 3 hours is not a road trip. I live in Los Angeles. That's called a commute. If you're stopping in the middle of a 3-hour drive, I question your endurance. That's just me. But I appreciate your heart for what you're about to ask. I think the question goes on, what's your snack or drink of choice? I have to change the question because 3 hours is not a road trip, so we're going 6 hours. 6 hours is a road trip. So basically driving from Los Angeles to Phoenix, like that's a road trip. 3 hours, I can get to like Palm Springs. I can get to Las Vegas. That's not a road trip. That's a drive. Okay, so now that we got that under our belt, let's actually answer the question. You're on a road trip, 6 hours, not 3. What's your snack/drink of choice? I love this. I see this, some people give these. There's a lot. I'm kind of a convenience store connoisseur, if you want to call it that. Here's why, though. Here's why. Is that when I played minor league baseball, and those of you that don't know, after high school, I was drafted. I played minor league baseball for 3 seasons before going back and playing football at the University of Colorado. Okay, during those 3 seasons, like for instance, I was in the Pioneer League. I was stationed in Idaho Falls, Idaho for one of those seasons, and we would be every 3 days on a bus trip, and those bus trips happened overnight. Okay, so there's not a lot of money in minor league baseball, certainly not back then. And so our dinners at times were the bus on a longer than 3-hour road trip, mind you. They would just stop at a gas station and be like, all right, bus leaves in 15 minutes. And you would stop and you'd have to get out at the convenience store. So I know what I'm doing when I go into a convenience store. And folks, you got to keep it simple. You got to keep it simple. Some people go in there and they think like, oh yeah, I'm going to do the new like nerd ropes. No, you will be devastated. Your stomach will be churning 2 hours later if you do something crazy like Tostitos queso, which I've tried before. You can't do it though. It might look good in the moment, but you got to keep it simple. So here's where I'm going. And this is, again, like loads of experience. I probably have more experience in a convenience store than you have possibly fathomed. You go in and you find only 2 drinks. You only need 2. Water, coffee. That's it. You do anything else, you're going to have a sugar crash. You're going to fall asleep at the wheel. Water, coffee. I recommend keeping it black coffee, but I can't expect you all to be perfect. So just water and coffee, okay? Water and coffee. Then you go for the snack. The snacks, also, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to go sweet and I'm going to go salty. But the sweet can't be too sweet and it can't be too much. So regular size, not king. King that's just too much. Like, I'm not a savage. Regular size Snickers. Regular size Snickers is where we're going. If you have a Three Musketeers, I question everything about you. Everything about you. In fact, if you get into my car with a Three Musketeers and it's not at least a Milky Way, if you're not at least to a Milky Way, the road trip's probably done at that point. And then the last thing, and this is for sustainability, is that you drink your coffee first with your Snickers, then you go to the salty. You don't want to go salty and then go to the sweet. You go sweet first with the coffee. So you got your sugar rush, you got your caffeine rush. Then you start sustaining yourself with water and hydration. And last one, dill pickle flavored sunflower seeds for the duration and for the win. And you're welcome. That's how you do it. That's how you road trip. That's how you properly road trip. If you don't do it that way, I don't really know you. I don't know. Throw me your comments. How do you do this? If you say nerd ropes, you might as well die on the side of the road. You can't do that. You can't do that. I've saw it way too many times. I've tried to do pizza. I've tried to do chips and queso. And you should have seen me in the bus driving from Casper, Wyoming, back to Idaho Falls, Idaho in the year, what was it, 2020? No, not 2020, 2001, summer of 2001. We're over the Grand Tetons, switchbacking around, and I had just had chips and queso for my dinner. Oh, you can't do it. You can't do it. You can't get greedy. You got to keep it simple. Water, coffee, regular size Snickers, dill pickle sunflower seeds, and it's science. Next up, Ragley. writes in, 2 years ago, there was a large concern in the NFL that the running back role was diminished and salaries were decreasing. What is your opinion about the running back role in modern college offenses and preparing these players for the NFL? That's really good because I actually think that we've had a bit of a resurgence from the running back position. And I think that that's based on really two factors. Let me go into the first. Do you remember at the beginning of the season, there was all this talk about cover two? Hey, by the way, you should probably go over to the Understanding Football series. If you don't know what cover two is, I teach it in depth. You'll know exactly what I talk about when I touch on these football terms. If you don't know, go to the YouTube page, subscribe, and watch Understanding Football. I've got a whole coverage episode for you, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So cover two. Cover two is a safe passing coverage with two safeties back, and the offense is going to have what's called run ratios. When you have run ratios, you should be able to block everybody in the run front on a run play. So what happens is that in the NFL, they went from post safety defense to open defense, open, middle of the field open, two safeties back. You can block everybody in the run front. So everything is cyclical. As defenses have gone to middle of the field open, offenses have gone back to running the football. So now it's more in vogue to run the football. That trickles down to the college level as well. That's part of the reason why we've had a bit of a resurgence from the running back position. There's also this other element, and that is I believe that we are getting more hybrid style running backs that create threats in the passing game. And the reason is because they have the opportunity for the best mismatch on the field. It's really hard to gain a distinct advantage with your wide receiver over a corner or even a slot player over a safety because those players are generally, from a margin standpoint, fairly equated. But if I can get a running back locked up with a linebacker, that's advantage me from an offensive standpoint. And so as offenses have evolved and wide receivers, they don't have as much of an advantage and running backs do, then the ability for the running back to be a threat in the passing game has increased at both levels. And so now the importance for offenses of all levels to go out there and have not just wide receiver threats, but running back threats has gone up. So dual, the way defenses play, and the opportunity to create mismatches in the passing game for a dual threat hybrid style running back, all of those are very beneficial to the offense, which is why I think we're having a bit of a resurgence to the running back position at both levels, but that certainly starts in the college game. That was a good question. Ragley, way to go. All right, next one. Joey The Acre 24 or The Acre. I don't know. I don't know how to read names, but whatever. Joey, what's up? He says, who do you think can have an SMU type season outside the top 25 in the preseason, get in the playoff? And who is most likely to have an FSU type season and let a lot of people down? Maybe not to the extent FSU did this year, though. Okay, Joey. There are some really good ones. And let me also point out that I do think that parity has really arrived in college football. And so I think that we're going to get surprises every year, which is great. Indiana, SMU, Arizona State. You know, it's not just SMU. Like, that's the thing is Arizona State was picked to finish dead last. Indiana was picked to finish almost dead last in the Big Ten or dead last in the Big Ten. And they both made the playoff. SMU was part of that discussion. So what do we have for next year? Well, we will have teams like that. There is no doubt. Two reasons. One is the dispersion of talent across college football is greater than it has been in recent past. And the other is that there is a severe imbalance of schedules within conferences because of the size of the conferences. So you're going to get experienced teams that all of a sudden get the benefit of the right schedule, and you're going to have Indiana's and SMU's all over again. And we're going to have those every single year. Here's a couple to pay attention to for next season. And I talked about these in my way too early top 10 for next year, which is also up on YouTube. Go check that one out. Illinois. I think Illinois could be a sneaky team next year. And here's the factors. They're coming off a 10-win season. They beat South Carolina in the bowl game. Luke Altmaier's back at quarterback with the entire offensive line. So now you're getting that veteran presence that I think is very important. Bielema Ball is working in Champaign, and then here comes the kicker. Their schedule is favorable in conference. So if you were to say, like, Joel, who are the 4 teams that you say run the Big Ten? Well, right now it's going to be Penn State, it's going to be Oregon, it's going to be Ohio State, it's going to be Michigan, all 4 of those, okay? 2 of those just won national championships in the last 2 years. Illinois misses 3 of them. So they miss Penn State, Oregon, and Michigan, and then they get to play Ohio State at home. So you're talking about an incredibly favorable schedule for a team like Illinois. I think that they are next year's Indiana. They're next year's SMU. Another team, maybe next year's Arizona State, although they're going to have more hype in the preseason than what Arizona State did with Kenny Dillingham last year. Baylor out of the Big 12. Baylor could have a really solid year. They were 2-4 to start this last season, and then they totally turned it around. They won their last 6 games of the regular season before losing their bowl game to LSU. Dave Aranda, whose history as being a great defensive coordinator, went back to calling the defensive plays. I think that helped them quite a bit. Sawyer Robertson, their quarterback, got things going in the second half of the year. He finished with over 3,000 yards and 30 total touchdowns. So watch out for Baylor. And then as it relates to the last part of your question, and I know you're kind of, Joey, you're talking about it as well. You say, like, what about an FSU type season? Maybe not to the extent of this. That's the point, is like, we're not going to see that again. I don't think. The historic collapse of FSU, we've never seen before, and I don't think we're going to see it ever again. I really don't. Now, is there going to be a top 10 team not play well? Maybe. Maybe those are really hard to predict because they're in the top 10 at this point for a reason. If I thought that one of those teams was going to fall off, then I would preemptively put them down in the rankings. So this is the problem with trying to identify a team that maybe won't have a great season that we're expecting to have a great season. Florida State was the first ever preseason team to lose 10 games in a year. Like, I just don't think that we're going to see that anytime soon. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.